Hey everyone, welcome back to Adbit System. Today we are talking about closed cluster search. CCS, imagine your Elasticsearch data spread across production, security, regional and archive clusters. Do you really want to search each one manually? CCS lets us ask one question across many clusters. Let's see how. In real-world environments, data is often intentionally separated. Production might live in one cluster, security in another, and regional or historical data somewhere else. Without CCS, we are querying these clusters separately during an incident. That's a pretty terrible scavenger hunt. Cross-cluster search is basically search federation. Your local cluster coordinates the request, reaches the remote clusters, and combines their results. And remember this distinction. CCS searches data where it already lives. CCR replicates data. So CCS gives us federation without copying everything. The request starts at Kibana or the API and reaches the local coordinating cluster. It resolves the request indices, sends the remote searches to the appropriate cluster and shards, receives the responses and reduce them into one result. So remember, network, remote work, and coordination all contribute to latency. The basic syntax is surprisingly simple. You prefix the index pattern with the remote cluster alias and a clone colon. So logs dash prod colon logs dash asterisk means search the logs dash asterisk index in the on the logs prod cluster. You can target multiple cluster and modern Elasticsearch also supports closed cluster ES or QL scenarios. CCS become really useful when separation is intentionally. Think multi-region observability, security investigation, centralized operation, staging various production troubleshooting, or searching historical data. A great example is investigation in IP address and asking, has this appeared anywhere across our environment? CCS configuration has two sides. The remote sites needs the appropriate closed cluster API key access while the local site control the remote connection and which user can use it. That's why authentication and authorization are not the same thing. You need the connection, authentication and authorization all working together. For modern API key-based CCS keeps permission narrow. The cluster's cross-cluster API key defines what remote data can be searched, while local permission control who can use the remote connection. Think least privileges. If your investigation only needs logs dash asterisk, don't give the key access to everything. A classic CCS problem is remote cluster, not connected. Don't immediately start changing random setting. Start with underscore remote slash info. Investigate the usual suspect. Network connectivity, TLS credential, connection configuration, permission and compatibility. The key lesson is simple. Accepted configuration doesn't automatically mean a healthy connection. Here's one of the most important CCS lesson. HTTP 200 does not automatically mean complete data. If one remote cluster is skipped, you can still get a successful response depending on your configuration. So check the CCS cluster metadata and understand skip underscore unavailable. Success and completeness are two different questions. Why does CCS sometimes become slow? Because distributed search multiplies the work. More cluster, more shards, wider time range, and larger responses all indices the cost. All increases the cost. Then add network latency, remote execution, shard fan out, and coordination. A query that's cheap locally can become expensive when you fan it out. Here's is perfect debugging sequence. Start with hyphen remote, underscore remote slash info, then use underscore resolve slash cluster to check how the index equation resolves. Test one remote cluster, then one index pattern, inspect the response metadata, and Only then measure latency and shard fan out. Isolation beats guesswork. Optimization is mostly about reducing work. Avoid unnecessary board wildcards, narrow your time ranges, target only the cluster and indices you need, filter earlier, and don't return documents you don't need for aggregation, only search size. Zero can help, and CCS minimize hyphen road strip is a turning option worth benchmarking. CCS is powerful, but it isn't a universal. Need one search across independent cluster? CCS needs data replication. Think CCR. CCR need massive repeated cross-region analytics. A centralized or aggregated architecture may be better. The key is choosing the architecture for the workload, not forcing every problem into CCS. Before calling CCS production ready, verify secure authentication, least privilege access, healthy remote connection, correct index resolution, monitoring for skipped cluster, and controlled shard fan out. The syntax is easy. Production CCS is distributed system engineering. If this helped, subscribe to Adbit System and I will see you in the next tutorial. Happy learning.